The story of how America conquered the sky in 60 seconds. It all began in December 1903 on the windy sands of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Two brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, worked day and night. They were bicycle makers, but they had a dream bigger than wheels. They wanted humans to fly. People in their town laughed at them. Even newspapers called them crazy. Yet the brothers didn't stop. Their first wooden machine looked fragile. It had wings of cloth and a tiny engine. But on that cold day, Orville climbed inside. The engine roared, the machine shook, and history was about to change. For 12 seconds, the world saw something new. A man lifted into the sky, not with balloons, not with gliders, but with a powered machine. America had entered a new age. The news spread slowly. Many didn't believe it, but those who did whispered that the sky would never belong to birds alone again. Across the United States, inventors began building new machines. Soldiers saw a weapon of the future. Businessmen saw profit. Travelers saw freedom. Still, danger was everywhere. Early flights crashed often. Pilots risked their lives each time. Yet something pulled people forward. The dream of conquering the skies grew louder. By 1914, the first commercial airline in America carried passengers across Florida. It was only a short trip, but it showed the future. The 1920s and 30s became the golden age of flying in America. After World War I, hundreds of trained pilots came home. They had skills, but no battles to fight, so they turned to the sky for a new purpose. Many became barnstormers, flying across small towns and performing daring stunts for crowds who gathered in fields. But visionary leaders wanted to turn planes into something bigger, a way for everyone to travel. And in 1927, Charles Lindbergh shocked the world by flying alone across the Atlantic. Newspapers in America called him a hero. Suddenly, aviation wasn't just a dream, it was the future. Soon, airlines began to rise. Pan American Airways started with flights to the Caribbean. From Miami, shiny planes carried passengers to Havana and beyond. United Airlines and American Airways began connecting major U.S. cities: Chicago, New York, Dallas, Los Angeles. Suddenly, Americans could travel in hours what once took days. Yet danger never left the skies. Planes were loud and often shaky. Flying through storms felt like being tossed in a wooden box. But people kept buying tickets. Flying was faster than trains, and it made them feel part of something extraordinary. By the 1930s, airplanes grew bigger and safer. The Douglas DC-3 changed everything. It carried more passengers, flew farther, and made airlines profitable. Suddenly, airlines weren't just for the rich. Middle-class families began to dream of flying too. Airports grew across the country. New York's LaGuardia, Chicago's Midway, and Los Angeles International Airport became gates to the sky. America was being tied together by invisible roots. The nation was shrinking and people felt it, yet behind the progress, tension grew. Europe and Asia were moving towards war again. American Airlines prepared quietly, knowing the sky would soon be more than a playground or a business. The skies of the 1940s would be filled with the shadow of war, and once again America's airplanes would be tested, not in peace, but in conflict. The golden age had given America wings, but storm clouds were gathering. When World War II erupted in 1939, the skies turned dark. Airplanes were no longer just tools of travel. They became weapons of survival. In 1941, America joined the war, and instantly the airline industry was pulled into action. Civilian routes were cut back. Pilots, planes, and mechanics were sent overseas. Passenger planes were converted to carry soldiers and supplies. Factories across the U.S. built bombers and fighters day and night. The sound of engines filled cities like Seattle, home of Boeing, and Long Beach, where Douglas aircraft rolled off assembly lines. Millions of tons of cargo and troops crossed oceans thanks to American aviation. Flying was no longer just about connecting cities. It was about winning a war. By 1945, when the war ended, America stood as the strongest air power on Earth. The war had advanced technology at lightning speed. Stronger engines, faster speeds, and long-distance flights were now possible. The airline industry was about to transform. By the 1970s, Flying was no longer new. Jets crossed oceans daily, airports buzzed with travelers, and airlines had grown powerful, but the government still controlled almost everything. The Civil Aeronautics Board decided which airline could fly where, how many seats they sold, and even what tickets cost. But that all changed in 1978 when Congress passed the Airline Deregulation Act. Overnight, the industry exploded. For the first time, airlines could set their own routes and prices. Freedom entered the skies. Big names like American Airlines, United, and Delta rushed to expand. They fought for every passenger, cutting fares and adding flights. Pan Am tried to rule the international market while TWA battled for dominance across U.S. cities. At the same time, new low-cost challengers like Southwest Airlines entered the fight. Their strategy was simple: cheap tickets, short flights, and no frills. Passengers loved it. Competition turned brutal. Airlines slashed prices so low that profits vanished. Mergers and bankruptcies followed. Braniff, Eastern, and Pan Am, all once proud names, collapsed under pressure. Each failure shook the nation. Airports saw stranded passengers, laid-off workers, and empty ticket counters. The airline industry had become a battlefield. But behind the scenes, strategies were more ruthless. Hub-and-spoke systems forced passengers to funnel through mega airports like Dallas-Fort Worth, Atlanta, and Chicago O'Hare. Smaller cities lost service, big cities grew overcrowded. Flights were delayed, tensions rose. Yet passengers still kept coming. Air travel was now cheaper than ever. Families who once traveled by car could suddenly afford to fly. The skies became democratic, but also unpredictable. Planes were full, but airlines were not. This is the story of U.S. Airlines. On September 11th, 2001, a clear morning sky over New York turned into the darkest day in aviation history. 4 U.S. passenger jets were hijacked and used as weapons. The Twin Towers fell. The Pentagon burned. Thousands of lives were lost. America watched in shock. For the airline industry, nothing would ever be the same. All U.S. flights were grounded for days, the first time in history. Airports became silent. Passengers canceled their tickets. Planes flew half empty, and airlines bled money. Security changed overnight. The TSA was created. Long lines, shoe checks, and bag scans became part of flying. The joy of air travel had turned into tension. The years after 9/11s were brutal. Airlines like United and American filed for bankruptcy protection. Jobs were cut, pensions lost, and small routes vanished. The giants of the sky looked fragile. Meanwhile, low-cost carriers like Southwest and JetBlue gained strength. In 2008, another blow, the financial crisis. Fuel prices soared and passengers disappeared. Airlines merged to survive. Delta joined with Northwest. United merged with Continental. American later teamed up with US Airways. The industry shrank but grew stronger. Today, U.S. airlines stand as symbols of resilience. From the Wright Brothers' fragile flyer to the roar of modern jets, the journey has been filled with danger, failure, and triumph.